Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lion, the Way, and the Word, where we discuss Jesus, His church, and the spiritual battle that surrounds us all. My name is Craig Allison.
My name is Brandon Bonner,
and we'll be your host. All right, I think this is the last episode in a series of just talking about like the entertainment and all the social media stuff and how all of that is influencing our society, impacting us. And so today we're gonna talk a little bit about cancel culture and celebrities and who we look to as our moral authority. Moral authority. And so my first question, just right out of the gate, is why do celebrities hold so much moral influence today?
I mean, I think that, celebrities have, we like something that they're doing, right? When I think about like movie stars, like they played a character, a role that really resonated with us and we really enjoyed it. So we feel like we're connected to them, but we forget they're actors. That's not actually who they are. Or maybe it's an artist who's wrote some lyrics that really resonate and really speak to us. And so we start painting these picture of who this individual is. And so we let them have a lot of influence over us. And we see snippets of their life and their fame and fortune and all these things that they're experiencing it. And maybe some of us are like, that looks pretty nice. I'd like to do that. So I'm going to follow them closely and engage with them closely because, they've done something or played a part or whatever where I really resonate with them.
Yeah. And that does not necessarily equate to them having the moral fortitude or things about their moral character that we should follow. As a matter of fact, so many of them are really, really flawed. And I think because of their celebrity status, they feel like that they have more to offer than just you or I. Obviously, they have a much bigger platform.
Right.
And that's the scary thing is that because a lot of them are so steeped into their celebrity status and people have built them up into these icons or whatever. They view themselves as like the little like demigods, and you need to listen to me. And so they use their outreach and their influence to say things that in a lot of instances have absolutely zero moral grounding whatsoever. I think this is kind of related, but not. If I'm wrong, somebody will correct me on this. But I believe it was Reese Witherspoon who got pulled over, and she pulled the "Do you know who I am?" card. Just thinking that they're better than everybody else, which doesn't necessarily translate then into the types of people that we should be listening to.
Yep.
I did say, I think maybe a few episodes back, where I actually respected Charles Barkley because he said, "Don't look at me as your leader. I'm not, I'm not anything. Like, don't look up to me as whatever." And I wish more of them would take that stance. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so the other another thing here that I've got, we have a human tendency to create idols out of public figures. You kind of hit on that just a little bit. You want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we like to substitute, especially. Well, let me back up. When we see something that really resonates with us, actor playing a part, a character in a movie or in a book or whatever it might be. That's something that we might, at least a part of us, aspire to be like. You watch a really good movie and you see a character like, oh, I like that guy. I like how he acts, or I like that girl and how she acts and how she dresses and the way she looks. And so I'm going to aspire to be that like them. And then that becomes, your idol. Or you think about an actor who's played multiple parts that you really admire, and you start to admire that person and make it an idol. And so I think that we definitely have the tendency to try to mimic that lifestyle, mimic that person's beliefs, take for what they say to be, very powerful and impactful on our own personal lives. And again, we're only seeing a very limited view of who that person is. And here's the thing, Greg, we're all people and humans. And so we know Scripture tells us that we're all sinners. We all fall short glory of God. And so, I mean, I think that we're just seeing very limited views. And then we talked a little bit as well before the episode started about how celebrity, like the definition of celebrities, I think is shifting a little bit because you have this new category of influencers
Yeah.
who I wouldn't say they're celebrities, right? But they're highly popular, right?
Millions of
Right.
followers.
Yeah. Huge followings, due to social media, and how those maybe even can become more of an impactful idol, or I guess prominent idol in our lives, I guess, because these are just normal people that by chance of algorithm and math happen to roll up, and now they're, influencers or social media famous. So we're seeing more and more of their lives, and maybe something more and more that we're wanting to make an idol, and the dangers of that, from a spiritual standpoint.
Yeah, Tim Tebow, he's another athlete that has really channeled his celebrity status for God, and I think that's a rarity among celebrities. Chris Pratt, I think, didn't he have a speech,
Yeah.
very Jesus-centered speech, and as part of the whatever award ceremony or whatever
Right.
it was. So you get those sprinklings in between, but it's very few and far between. As a matter of fact, the more of the things that I see that they post are like antithetical to
Right.
the Christian worldview and morality, and so that's the scary thing about it. It's not. Did you got something?
Well, and you may be about to say this, but what's interesting is this is not a new
I
concept.
was exactly going to say, yeah,
Yeah, 1 Corinthians 3, which you've written down here.
yeah,
The church in Corinth, they were wanting to make the apostles or the folks that were teaching them or sharing the gospel idols.
yeah,
And Paul reprimands them and say, you don't follow Apollos, you don't follow Paul, but you follow Jesus Christ. I mean, so this is even back in first century times, the church was making idols of people that were, sharing good news. They're sharing the gospel, but putting their idolship in the wrong place.
yep. And Paul tells them, he goes back to that. He's like, guys, it's not about Apollos, it's not about me, and he redirects them back to to God being this he should be the center of it, which is it's interesting to me because you said it really isn't new. They apparently, Paul and Apollos both had achieved some type of celebrity status where they were pretty well known, and people, were wanting to say, "Yeah, Paul baptized me,"
Yep.
or "Yeah, Apollos baptized. I'm part of his camp," and it says something about our human nature that we are just wired to want to elevate people above normal human status.
Right.
And I think we need to keep a check on that as Christians. We need to be very careful about how we view people who have just gotten lucky, really. Not to say that they don't work hard, but they're still the same flesh and blood as we are. They,
Right.
They have to go to the bathroom just like we do, and so there's nothing uniquely special about them that they deserve to be viewed as having more moral wisdom
Right.
than anybody else.
Yep.
So that kind of leads into this next topic about. Well, I was actually going to skip that one. I do want to go to this next one though. Talking about cancel culture versus biblical authority. So the question I've got is: there a difference between repentance, restoration, and permanent condemnation? When we're thinking about celebrity influence and how they seem to be able to influence a mass amount of people, and so this whole thing now that's become a kind of prevalent thing, especially in politics, seems like. But this idea about cancel culture, and I don't want to get too drawn off into the politics, but I'm thinking about, because I just watched something that reminded me of a celebrity who took a right-leaning stance. I'm being vague on purpose. This was a female actress who took a right-leaning stance on some political ideology and literally got fired from Disney, lost her contracts. It was all gone. So where are we when that type of thing is taking place in our world?
Was that recent?
It's going back a couple years.
Okay. Because there was kind of it's weird because how much it sways, but there's kind of that push. I'm thinking Disney specifically, like there was a lot of pushback from their typical consumers, like the family unit, and so they kind of backed up, reversed some of that stuff. But anyway, that's not the point. The point's cancel culture. I mean, so I think that this is a real concern and fear for a lot of folks because, you think what we're doing right now, right? This is all going to be on the internet. And so at any moment, someone could see these episodes and twist what we're trying to say at any point. And I mean, you're probably not going to get canceled from Central, but I totally could get, I don't want to say, I won't probably get fired, but I could definitely, it could be bad, right?
Yeah.
From a cancel culture standpoint. And so, I mean, I think that that's not the biblical example, right? You have these super flawed individuals. I mean, think about Paul, right? Like Paul did some wicked stuff pre-Christian Paul
Right.
in his Saul days.
Right.
And so from a cancer culture standpoint, like, well, this guy's terrible. Don't associate with him at all. And that's not what happened, right? So Paul found redemption and was restored and brought to Christ, and then look at the impact that he had, post his Saul days. And so I think that cancel culture is definitely something that we should steer away from on both sides of the aisle. It's important for us to remember the theme of forgiveness,
Right.
and not forget. I mean, guys, we're forgiven as well. We should all be canceled. We're sinners. But Jesus didn't have that philosophy, so he came down and gave us an opportunity for all to have redemption.
You're talking about Paul. It makes me think, because he did run into some issues there at the beginning, where the church in Jerusalem. There were people that did not trust him, and he kind of had to have Barnabas speak on his behalf before people would trust him. Imagine him in today's society with social media, how hard it might have been for him to rebuild his reputation back after that.
Yeah.
And so, we are faced with, truly, we are in some unique times, and it presents a whole series of things that are nuanced, things that we need to be thinking through, which is why we've done series talked about social media, just because of how completely entrapped that we can become, and tangled up in all of the stuff that it presents, the hazards that it presents.
Yeah. And we've taken it from a macro scale to a micro scale, thinking about how avoidance of conflict we are as a culture.
Yeah.
Thinking about what is the biblical example set out for us on how we should handle conflict. And Matthew 18 talks about this, right? If a brother sins against you, go to them. Such a pattern and thing that we've lost as humankind, as a society. You post something I don't like, or you say something I don't like, or you do something I don't like. What do? I'm not going to associate with Craig anymore. I'm deleting him from Facebook. I'm deleting his phone number. Craig, you might not even have any clue that you've upset me to the point where I never want to talk to you again. That's the culture that we've built, where the Bible says, hey, Craig, you've posted something that bothers me, or you've done something that bothers me, so I'm going to go to you. We're going to talk this out, and we're going to approach forgiveness and redemption in that relationship. Again, a lot of biblical and spiritual implications for that process.
Yeah, that's like one of my, you've like struck a nerve with me on that. And this idea of needing to reconcile with our brothers and sisters, with people that we've offended, even if we don't know that we've offended them, but hopefully we're given an opportunity to make amends, and so, yeah, that has happened so rare in my own life. I know that I've offended people, and I know that people have completely canceled me from anything. Like, they don't ever see anything that I post unless it's through another channel or friend or whatever. And that's just sad. Mm-hmm. It's sad to know that I've said or done something that may have been completely unthoughtful on my part, and I can't make amends for that.
Yep.
Or maybe it was just miscommunicated on my part, and I can't make amends, and now I've lost that relationship with somebody. We've talked a little bit about how just ridiculous it's gotten, during the election cycle, where you had children and families canceling their parents, like completely severing any relationship. There's parents that will never see their grandkids because their kids canceled them because they voted one way or another. That is just, and these are Christians too. I'm like, what in the world is going on? That's crazy to me. And so, yeah, that's just one of the other nuances here when we talk about social media, that we're in this strange, odd territory of our culture.
Yep. Well, we've entered a time period where we don't need each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Like in this time in first century Christianity, you had a conflict with someone in the church. It wasn't like, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to go 2 blocks away and go to this other church. I mean,
right.
That was your church community, your church family.
Yep.
You had to have some sort of resolve, or you lived in close proximity. I think we talked about this not on the podcast, but a couple weeks ago. Like if we ever had some sort of conflict and we stopped talking, it'd be super awkward because we're neighbors.
Right.
Like we would have to reconcile, right? And so that doesn't necessarily exist in humanity, and especially in Christendom now. Is I'll just leave that church. I'll never see those people again. No, no skin off my back.
And a lot of this too is getting back to like celebrities and stuff, and just how weird it is now. Like a lot of this, us canceling out people that we know, is based on how a celebrity views the world and their idea of morality. And I wanted to talk a little bit about this. Drives me up the wall, the virtue signaling that takes place among celebrities. And for those of you that are not familiar with the term virtue signaling, it's basically taking some type of moral stance on whatever issue, when that person, that celebrity who's putting that out there, is just doing it because they know it's going to resonate with a bunch of people, but they are not themselves going to be doing anything like that. Now, I'm not going to name names specifically or whatever, but you've probably seen the different pictures and like colors and stuff posted on Facebook or Instagram that represent some movement that's taking place, and then 5 months later it's going to be a non-issue, and so celebrities taking advantage of that, and it really leads people like you and I to feel like, oh, well, since they're taking that position, I probably need to take that position too. Mm-hmm. And if you don't take that position, then I've got a problem with you. And so now I'm gonna cut you out of my life because you're not agreeing with, Billie Eilish or whoever.
You really have it out for Billie Eilish.
I want to say it. I'm not though, because that's just going to open up. But if you know her and you know the recent stuff that she's put out there, it just gets ridiculous sometimes. It's like, what are these people doing? What are they thinking? What? Anyway, so I'm getting fired up. I'm getting triggered, man.
Craig, and I was thinking while you're talking about how this is not just prevalent with us and celebrities, but it's also prevalent inside the church. How many times, and I've done this, how many times have we put, some sort of spiritual mentor or cornerstone or impactful person in our life kind of on a pedestal? And we're all people. We all make mistakes. We all fall short. And so we see that person have something happen, struggle, fall short, and then our faith completely crumbles, right? Because we've built our faith and our foundation on a person rather than on Jesus.
Yep.
And you have, you see news articles coming out all the time about these, leaders of these big churches and some sort of crazy scandals, right? And it just hurts your heart because you're like, man, I mean, you're supposed to be serving the kingdom, and you got so many people that are looking up to you for guidance and direction. And so it does have an impact from celebrity standpoint, but maybe more thoughtful for our listeners of like, who are the people that, regardless of their celebrity status or a preacher or an elder or whatever, where are you putting them? If you're putting them on a pedestal and you're building kind of a foundation around their beliefs and their influences that are not Christ-centered and they're not on Christ, and that can be, pretty pretty dangerous.
Yep, it goes back to what Paul was telling the Corinthians is not to do that. He recognized that he was the chief of sinners. He even says, and I'm glad you brought that up, because what it does is it points to a couple things. The first thing it points to is that no human being is perfect. We are all flawed, and unless we're putting everything within, our example is in Jesus, people are going to let you down. I say it regularly from the pulpit, that I count myself as, everybody else. I'm flawed. I'm broken. I make hugely stupid mistakes. I say stupid things all the time. I'm incredibly flawed. And I'm arrogant too, which the two shouldn't match. But that arrogance and that the flawed nature. I can admit it, but maybe I admit it with some arrogance. I don't know, however you want to say it. But so there's that. The second piece of this is, I forgot what the second piece of that was. I had such a good point to make by that. Now it's slipped my mind. Anyway, here we are today. We're looking at this from the standpoint of how we are so influenced. Oh, that was it. It just came back to me. So we are hardwired. There's something about us that needs to put our faith, to shape our morals and our values on somebody. And obviously, if it's another person, that there's risk in that. So I have to think that Satan recognizes that. He understands how we are. And so there's that pushing that he does to get us to do that. And I think he does that through a lot of different ways. I think he utilizes, I've said this a lot, he utilizes technology to push that forward, to get us to put our faith more and more in people rather than God, to look to people for our moral guidance rather than God, rather than Jesus. Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing is too, he purposely goes after the spiritual leaders because he knows if he can make them fall because everybody else has put their faith in them. Like if he can come after me and cause a huge scandal with me or my family, and I know, a lot of people look to me as this, example of, because I'm on a platform or whatever, then it's going to cause them to fall away. I've seen that happen within the church. I've seen elders who have disgraced the name of Christ and they made mistakes or whatever. And then a lot of other people lost their faith because of that person.
Right.
So yeah, lots of stuff there.
100%.
Yep. All right. Well, this has again been another good discussion. I think we've tapped into some stuff that I think probably is worth talking about, but we're not. We're going to move forward into some really interesting stuff with the next series.
Oh no! I don't remember what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's. I've been waiting until we get into this for a while now because there's some stuff going on. But anyway.
Well, we'll see what we're talking. I think I know. I think I just remembered, but I don't want to spoil it. So anyway, want to shout out our sponsors. So of course, Central Church of Christ with this beautiful studio that we're able to record in. It's definitely been an awesome resource for us. Also, I want to shout out the coffee shop. We have a coffee shop, I guess. I don't know if
do we have a name for it?
I don't know. Parker probably is going to be like, "This was the name. How'd you forget?" It's great coffee. There's a lot of members of our church that contribute to making coffee for folks in the morning before service or before class. It's honestly better than most of the coffee shops.
It is top notch. Yeah, it is top notch coffee. Yep. And we've got people that are making it that were like trained baristas too, which is pretty cool.
100%. I was falling asleep, so I got one brought to me. They offer delivery apparently. So also want to plug Ministry League. For letting us post on their app. So if you need some good resources, that's a good place to look. And then we also have another podcast called Digging Deeper After Sunday. It airs every Monday after our Sunday service. Just a quick recap of what we talk about here at Central on Sunday mornings. If you like this episode or if it's challenged you, we encourage you to like, share, subscribe. Check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anything else.
Yeah, Parker's cueing the music, but I'm just curious now. I wonder if anybody actually stays for this part and listens
I bet we could pull that.
to this section of the thing was like, no, I've heard the actual podcast. We're going to shut it off now. We need to like start putting like bloopers and stuff at the end.
We do. There's a lot.
So people are like, wait, what? They're like all the Marvel
Yeah.
movies, where all the credits are gone.
Yep.
Hey, folks, until our next episode of The Lion, the Way, and the War, be kind to one another, love one another. Remember, the creator of the universe loves you so much that he gave up his only son for you. Have a blessed day.